Hello everyone, it's been a little while since I started a video this way, but I pretty much edited the entire video that I wanted to release for today, but just before I hit the render button there were two important things that happened that I want to announce to you guys. But of course, if you're not here for announcements and you just want to see the video around the build, feel free to go to this timestamp in the video, it will take you to the beginning of the video. But I do hope you hear me out because there's two important things I want to make you guys aware of. The first of which is actually the launch of our Discord server. So yes, we now have our very own Discord server. I will leave the link to the invitation at the top of the description, so you can obviously head over there, join the rest of the legends that are already hanging out in that Discord, because not only will you get real-time updates on my videos, but you'll also get updates on other YouTubers' videos and hang out with other YouTubers in that Discord, as well as having access to chat logs for things like trading and summon requests or just playing in co-op in general. So if you are interested in that, like I say, the link is at the top of the description, but there will also be another link just below that will take you over to my own personal page over at Project Orochi. I have been working with the legends over there at Project Orochi for quite some time now, working on this really cool design that can go onto merch, and as I should hopefully be showing you in the background now, it is quite a subtle design, and the reason why we did it that way is because it's just a general piece of clothing that looks cool and isn't necessarily tied to anything related to the channel, but it does have subtle hints like having my name going from top to bottom and the character in the middle being Yuri, which is one of my favourite characters in all of Elden Ring. So there is some nods to the channel, and it's kind of one of those things like, if you know, you know it's a piece of my merch, but it's also a subtle design that you can get away with just wearing in public and potentially having someone be like, hey, that's a cool shirt. Where'd you get that from? So if you're interested in purchasing one of the shirts, you can head over to Project Orochi. The link again will be in the description just under the Discord link. And just to be abundantly clear, if you do purchase one of these shirts from my collection, you will also be helping out the channel financially. I believe there's also a 10% discount on your first orders currently on their site. So if it's the first time heading over there and potentially buying something, you can just generally get 10% off your purchases. Other than that, that is pretty much all the self-promotion that I need to make. Like I say, these things have been happening in the background. It's kind of just like my luck that both of them come out like as I've just finished this video, but obviously these things would not happen at all without your guys' support. So genuinely just thank you from the bottom of my heart for allowing these crazy collaborations to happen, as well as being the legends that you are and being the kind and cool community that you are to warrant obviously things like the Discord server being a thing. So of course, make the most out of both of these opportunities. Obviously enjoy this video, give it a like if you happen to enjoy it, and I'll catch you in a bit. Claw weapons in Elden Ring have a reputation for being some of the most fun and most powerful weapon types in the entire game, and with the release of Shadow of the Erdtree, we were of course blessed with yet another one of these insane claw weapons, and with the right setup, this weapon can destroy pretty much everything in the game with its fast flowing moveset, as well as its incredible Ash of War. And of course the weapon I'm talking about is none other than the Claws of Night. So without further ado, let me just show you how you create this insanely powerful build. Now just before I show you the stats and talismans etc for this build, I should probably show you how you get this weapon in the first place, and in order to get your hands on the Claws of Night, you do need to complete Ymir's questline, which is the person located in the Cathedral of Manus Meteor, and I am not going to spoil anything because I know some of you are still playing the DLC and want to find this out for yourself, but essentially during the progression of this quest, you will come to this underground area after inspecting the chair that Ymir sits on, and when you come down into this area, you will be invaded by the Black Knight Anna, and then simply all you need to do is defeat this invader, and once you do so, you will be granted with the Claws of Night. And as I mentioned in the intro, claw weapons are quite possibly one of the most deadly weapon types in the entire game, because not only do they do slash and pierce damage, but they also have one of the highest DPSs in the game. So when you mix that all in with the fact that the Claws of Night have an innate bleed build-up, it all of a sudden becomes abundantly clear how this weapon deals so much damage. Of course, just to give you reference of the gameplay in the background, it is going to be from New Game Plus 1, so yes, it's not from the highest New Game Plus, but again, the other beautiful thing about bleed damage is it's percentage based, so no matter what New Game Plus that you're in, these weapons are still going to tear absolutely everything up. But of course, one of the main reasons why I wanted to make this video is not only because these weapons look incredibly cool and are a special weapon in the game, but they also come with their own unique Ash of War, being the Scattershot throw, which actually adds quite a a large range to this weapon, making this weapon a standout against all other claw and close range weapons, as you will be able to keep the pressure on your enemies, especially in a PvE sense for poise damage, because again, for those of you that didn't know, the poise counter does reset after a certain amount of time, or at least it starts getting depleted. So if you don't hit your enemies for an X amount of time, they will start getting their poise back. But with this scatter shot, where you can hit them at distance, even if only one of the claws that you throw at your enemies actually tags them, you will prevent that poise counter from dropping any lower, which can be incredibly useful in certain fights. For example, you should hopefully be seeing it in the background now, but against Melania, especially in the second phase when she uses her Scarlet Rot Bloom, you can essentially hit her at range with this Ash of War a couple of times, and then by the time that the bloom has disappeared and you can actually go up to her and attack her, you will be able to just simply break her poise with just standard light attacks. Throwing the fact that those needles can also apply bleed build-up can also make for some incredible final moves against certain bosses, which is again why these weapons are so fun to use and can be extremely versatile against pretty much most boss fights. But of course, if you want to mimic the damage that you're seeing in the background, here are the stats that you're going to need in order to do so, and as always with our characters on this channel, they are a level 150 character, and this one particularly started off as a samurai, but again you can choose any starting class that you want, and as you can see, the stats we're going to need are 60 points into vigor, 13 mind, 24 endurance, 12 strength, 70 dexterity, 9 intelligence, 33 faith, and an 8 arcane. Now this weapon does only scale with dexterity, hence why we've got most of our points into that stat. My strength, intelligence, and arcane are the base values for the samurai, so essentially, other than making sure that your strength is at least 8 to meet the minimum requirement for the weapon, do not bother putting any points into strength, intelligence, or arcane, as it's not necessary, because again, although this weapon does bleed damage, where it doesn't have an arcane scaling, it won't improve the bleed build-up. But essentially, with that 70 points in dexterity, that gave us a lot of points to put elsewhere, so where we're going to be a bit more close quarters, especially if you're running this in the DLC, I heavily recommend that you put your vigor up to 60, just so then you don't get one shot by everything and you have a little bit more of a chance to survive in certain scenarios. But then we've also got 33 faith in this build to run both Golden Vow and also Howl of Shibiri to give us a plus 15 and plus 25% boost to our overall damage output respectively, and of course the extra vigor will help with the extra damage we take with Howl of Shibiri, and then the 24 endurance will allow us to have a relatively heavy amount of armor, as well as having a good amount of our stamina bar so that we can just again keep the pressure on and do multiple attacks without us having to worry too much about our stamina regen. But of course the stats aren't the only star of the show, as we will also be getting a heavy boost to our damage output through our talismans, and with this particular weapon I do highly recommend that you run these following talismans, and again that's going to be on screen for you, so feel free to pause the video and jot these down, but I am of course going to go through them with you anyway. So first up, we've got the Lord of Blood's Exaltation, again where we're going to be doing bleed damage. It's in our best interest to run this, as whenever a bleed proc does occur, we'll get a 20% boost to our damage output. But then because claw weapons are one of the quickest DPS weapons in the game, it would also be ideal to run both Millicent's Prosthesis and also the Rotten Winged Insignia, because both of those will be giving us a boost to our damage output with successive attacks. But then more specifically with Millicent's Prosthesis, we get a plus 5 to our dexterity, which of course is going to boost our damage even more, and then we can finish off the build with the Shard of Alexander just to boost our damage with that scatter shot throw, because although sometimes not all of those scatter shots are going to hit, even if you just say hit them with 1 or 2, it's still going to do around about 400 to 500 damage. But when you're up close and personal, you can actually get 2,000 to 3,000 damage out of this scatter shot, which can of course do even more damage if you also manage to hit them with a bleed proc whilst using that Ash of War. And for those of you that are using this build in your first playthrough and therefore can't get both Millicent's Prosthesis and the Rotten Winged Insignia in the same game, feel free to swap out one of those for either the Ritual Swords Talisman or maybe even one of the Dragon Crest Great Shields or any other defensive buffing talisman. And of course, to round up the rest of the buffs with this build, we can indeed use the Wonder Physick, and inside the Wonder Physick I highly recommend that you run both the Dexterity Nut tier as well as the Thorny Crack tier to not only give us a plus 10 in our dexterity, obviously going past the final soft cap, but also it gives us our third boost to successive damage output, which is how we are doing the thousands and thousands of damage really quickly with just the simple light attacks with this weapon. And for those of you that are a little bit more keen-eyed, you've probably seen that there's one extra thing also giving us an extra damage boost, and that is indeed going to be one of the armor pieces, as we are running the White Mask. I did pair this with Freya's armors, that's another brand new armor set in the DLC, along with the scaled greaves and gauntlets just to give me a good amount of protection, because of course during the majority of fights we're going to be up close and personal, so you might end up trading a hit here or there, but realistically you can run whichever armor set that you want to run, just of course make sure you have at least 51 poise. But other than that, much like the previous builds that we've done, this is a very much plug and play kind of build. All you simply need to do is just get the weapon, chuck on some armor that you like, and obviously put the right stats in, and you're pretty much good to go. One final tip that I will just give you guys, because of course there's going to be some enemies that you come up against that cannot be bled, i.e. Radagon and Elden Beast. If you do come up against those enemies, I highly recommend that you bring a dagger or a smaller weapon with a bleed inflicting Ash of War, so something like Seppuku or something like Bloody Slash, so then that way you can inflict the bleed on yourself to activate the boost with the White Mask and of course Lord of Blood's Exaltation. But even still, without these buffs, as you're probably seeing in the background of hopefully the Placidusax fight that I did, you can still do thousands of damage just with the weapon itself and the successive damage outputs. And although I haven't really used claw weapons all that much in the base game or the DLC, these weapons are extremely fun to use and extremely versatile, and as I say, can just melt everything in the game. So if you're looking for a brand new weapon to use to mix up your playstyle throughout the DLC, then the Claws of Night are definitely something I suggest using, and this is of course how you create the ultimate build around them. But I want to know from you guys, are you fans of the Claws of Night? Obviously let me know down in the comments below, and whilst you're down there also feel free to let me know if there's any ways that you can make this build even better. Of course we could implement things like the blood sucking crack tier, or maybe change to the Rakshasa armor set if you want to have that little bit extra risk, but you probably know me by now, we always play it safe. But other than that, if you happen to like this video, if you don't mind me asking you to leave a like rating on this video, it genuinely does help out the channel so much, and it is also the quickest way to tell me that you enjoy these build videos and you want to see more in the future. And if you want to stay up to date with the videos that come out in the future, feel free to subscribe if you're not subscribed already. We're closing in on that 30,000 subscriber mark, which was actually something that I projected to hit next year, so let's see if we can hit it next month, because that's kind of what it's looking like right now, and that's all because you guys are showing so much tremendous support for the channel, and I genuinely cannot thank you guys enough. Obviously go and try out this build for yourself and let me know how you get on if you do happen to use this build. But again, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have an amazing day, and I guess I'll catch you in the next video of whatever it is that we make. Bye bye.